Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Coach Caris, Itchy, Bitchy and Guests. Coach Caris, by the way, totally struggled to say Caris, don't know what's going on. So today I am going to chat about when too much is too much and why I scaled my coaching back to move forward. So quite a lot of us, I think you'll maybe agree with this, alright? Do you ever just do the same thing over and over again, right? And not expect different results, but do you ever just do the same thing over and over again because that's what you've always done or that's what you've done for a long time, even though you're not particularly happy with that? No? I don't believe for 1 minute it's just me because I do hear a lot about us women that just do everything and we keep doing everything, and there's something about change that just it just freaks us out. And it's as if, well, the better the devil you know, as I say, and obviously, so people just stick to what they're doing even though it's not particularly making them happy because it's just become a habit, and it's what we do. We just get doing it. We just get used to doing it, right? So change. Put your hands up if change is scary. I've got my hand up, all right? Change is scary, but waking up every day stressed, not sleeping because you're worried about something, right? Feeling that you're constantly stretched too thinly, feeling that you're constantly not actually giving 100% to anything that you do, and actually wondering how long you can keep that up, right, is scary. That's where I found myself at the end of just before the summer holidays. So maybe, probably, well, March, April, May, June-ish, July, right? I was coaching 5 different groups of people, right? And I didn't feel like I was giving my all to any of those groups because I was just thinking about the next thing that I had to do with a different group or whatever. All right. So yeah, the fun disappeared for a while, for a good couple of months anyway. Like the joy. And I understand this is my job, right? And I understand that we can't enjoy our jobs all the time, but we spend too much time at our jobs to not have fun. I think that's my outlook on life. I think, yeah, like 33% potentially of the day is at your work. So 8 hours for sleeping, 8 hours for working, 8 hours for the other fun stuff that you do, all right? But so that's 33% of your day, right? That's a pretty hefty amount for it to be shit. Or for you to come home and the shitness from the shit job overflows into the 33% that you've got for the nice stuff as well, all right? So I've rethought and I've scaled back my coaching. So I've changed some of it, I've cut back on some of it to allow me to give more, right? And no, it wasn't an easy decision. It was a really fucking hard decision, actually. And there was tears shed over it at some point. Well, there was tears shed over some of it. Some of it there wasn't tears shed over, but there was tears shed over it. But I also knew that it was the right thing to do. It was just implementing it and taking on board everybody else's feedback, because while it was ultimately my decision, it's my business, it's my coaching, I can actually do what I want, right? I've said this before, there's no rules, I can actually do what I want. But it involved other people, and it involved clients, it involved parents, it involved kids, and whether they thought I was right or wrong didn't particularly matter, but they were entitled to give me their opinion. Right, so people are actually entitled to give you their opinion. You don't have to listen to them. Obviously, I took everybody's opinions and sadness and cheers and whatever on the chin, but it's still tough. And I think you need to psych yourself up for it, right? But staying where I was and not changing things would, in my opinion, it would have been unfair on the people that I was coaching, and Nobody wants a miserable coach, do you know, right? Anyway, the whole point of this is midlife. Would I have done this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Nah, do you know what? I probably would have. I've been self-employed for a long time now, so I probably would have. But that doesn't mean that because you wouldn't have done it 20, 30 years ago that you can't do it now, right? So we have this incredible opportunity. I think it's an absolute incredible opportunity, midlife. We're a bit more confident. We're a bit more given zero fucks. And we can actually do what we want. And we might have more responsibility, like we might have grown up kids or kids that are grown up and elderly parents and stuff like that, right? But we also, this should be the time of your life that you're having fun. All right, we don't want to get stuck in all the drudgery of the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, all right? So you get to enjoy your life any way you want, but I'm just going to tell you why I made these changes, and maybe you want to make changes as well, and this would be a little instigator. All right, so I was coaching five different groups of people, right? So if I go back a couple of years, I'm not going to bore you with the details of how I got into fitness training, etc., etc., and what I did before that, because if you don't know, I'm actually going to bore you with the details on my next podcast about how to actually implement those changes. All right, so this is just about why, and then I'll do the hows in our next podcast, because I think some top tips are helpful, and sometimes we need to think about the worst case scenario. In fact, this is what I do all the time. I think about the worst case scenario, like what's actually the worst that could happen. And if it doesn't involve me or somebody dying, then you should absolutely fucking say yes to it. That's my opinion, all right? And it's maybe a bit simplified, but we get hung up very easily on what might go wrong, and very rarely does that thing actually happen. All right. So couple of years ago or whatever, right? I've been coaching for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? In fact, 6 years. I've been coaching 5 different groups of people. All right. So I've been coaching CrossFit, which is my actual qualification. All right. So I've been coaching CrossFit for somebody else, for Gordon that owns a gym. All right. But I cover some of his classes for him. So I've been coaching CrossFit. I did have small group PT, which was a mixture of men and women. So I was coaching them. Then was also coaching kids sessions, so age 5 to 11. I was coaching teen sessions, age 11 to 16. And I then introduced my ladies that lift. So that was 5 different groups, right? So on a weekly basis, I was coaching 5 different groups of people, 5 different workouts. Now, a lot of the time, the workouts were predominantly like they had the same movements in them, but there was all different scaled options, different warm-ups, different accessory work, right? And I literally felt like my head was going to explode. So on a Sunday, I was sitting doing the workouts for each different group. Now, on each different group, I coached them more than once a week. So there was a lot of sessions, a good 20, 25 hours of coaching per week, right? And it was getting to the stage that a lot of it I wasn't enjoying. Oh, and also, sorry, before I did small group PT, I actually did individual personal training. So I asked this started 3 years ago, I asked all my individual people if they would mind going into small group PT, which again, they all did, and I'm eternally grateful for that. They all did that, and it was amazing. But I was pretty much asking them, they were signing up for one-to-one coaching because they didn't train with other people, and then I asked them to train with other people. As it turned out, they all loved it. However, a couple of months ago, I decided, it was probably more than a couple of months ago, last summer, so I knew that I had to change something because I felt that my brain was going to explode. It also contributed massively to imposter syndrome. And the reason that I had imposter syndrome was because I knew, if I sat down and thought about it, I knew that I wasn't giving my all to each individual group at the time because I was too busy thinking about everything else that I had to do. Right, so they weren't getting the best out of me. They were paying me for a service. They weren't getting the best out of me. And the bottom line is that that's not fair. So last summer, I asked I said to my small group PT clients that I wasn't going to do it anymore. So we managed to find homes for them all. One of the girls comes to my ladies that lift. One of the boys went to CrossFit. Well, for most of them, to be fair. And then we found another PT for one of the other chaps as well. So it did all work out in the end. And I like I said, I will be eternally grateful because they came with me when I changed everything. I thought going from one-to-one PT to small group PT would make me more efficient and a better coach. It didn't particularly, but I couldn't quite find the balance, but I knew that something had to go because I was a bit stressed. So I cut back on the small group PT, told them that I wasn't doing it anymore. But the 2 hours that I was doing small group training, I then gave over to the ladies that lift. So I wasn't necessarily working any less hours, but that was never actually my plan. The hours that I was working was okay. It was the fact that I was trying to do 5 different things at once, sometimes back to back as well, which was a bit of a headache. And it just wasn't making me the best version of myself. And despite what a lot of people think, all right, if you're looking for somebody to coach you, if you're looking for a coach, you do business with the people that are on the same wavelength as you, right? You could stand 10 people in front of you, right? And we've all got the same credentials. All the coaches, they've all got exactly the same qualifications, right? It's going to come down to the way that they interact with you and the way that they speak about the thing that they want to coach you on, whether that's passion or the language that they use or just the fact that they're relatable to you, that they're the same age, etc., etc. All right, so people do business with people regardless of their qualifications, pretty much. So it was just really hard. It was just really tough. I felt like I was letting a lot of people down, but also underlying at the back of all of this, I still knew it was the right thing to do. So, ladies that lift. So I stopped my small group PT and got myself 2 extra hours for the ladies that lift, all right, which means the midlife women are training 5 times a week instead of the 3 that I gave them before, all right. So that was one thing. The next thing that I had to do was decide whether I was going to do the kids and the teens, right? So coaching the kids and the teens, out of all the different coaching that I do at this time last summer, the kids and teens brought in the most income out of all my different coaching groups, all right? But again, I love the kids and the teens, absolutely love them, all right, 100%. But my brain was going to explode, so I decided that I wasn't going to do the kids and the teens anymore, but I was going to put a lot of effort into planning this, into trying to get somebody to take it over, because I still believe that kids and teenagers should absolutely be in the gym. And I also had to try and bolster my income slightly before I could just stop all that money coming in, all right? And also, just to clarify, I am very, very prepared to take a hit in income and cut my cloth accordingly, all right? There is many a time Cal has eye-rolled me. I'm sure he's actually told me to shut up a few times as well, because I've started yabbering on about selling my car and taking my bike to the gym. Right now, this is a whole other podcast because I've had the summer off taking my bike to the gym because I had the fear. But anyway, so I am very much up for cutting my cloth accordingly, right? I'm not interested in money in the bank. I'm not interested in the latest car or whatever. I just want enough money to live on. That's all I want, and I'll cut my cloth accordingly. So anyway, sorted all the kids and the teens out, etc. Right? 2 of the lovely coaches at the gym have taken it over. All right, they just launched last week, so that's fabulous. So I've had the summer of evening classes off, so I work in the morning and I go back out at 4:30 3 days, or I did go back out at 4:30 3 days a week. And I thought that was maybe the problem. I thought that maybe doing split shifts for 6 to 7 years was just taking its toll on me. Like, I'm not getting any younger, let's face it. But it wasn't that. It was what I thought it was. It was the brain capacity, which is absolutely to do with the perimenopause and is absolutely to do with me getting older. 100%, all right? 100% to do with that. It was the sheer brain capacity that it took to coach 5 different groups of people. So obviously I made some decisions, all right? So basically I cut back on my coaching to make me a better coach, which is why part of the reason us many perimenopause women or midlife women, all right, we consistently try to do everything, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Right now, I probably would have stopped coaching my kids and teens. I only stopped at the end of June, right, this year. I probably would have stopped 6 months earlier if I'd actually plucked up the courage to ask some people to help me or to take it over, right? But I didn't want to ask them because I didn't want them to say no, right? If you don't want to hear the answer, don't ask the question. I'm a massive lover of that, all right? But with hindsight, that was a ridiculous thought process. And I also didn't want anybody to think any less of me. So I am the CrossFit Kids and Teens coach and have been at CrossFit 1298 for 7 years now, and I didn't want anybody to think any less of me. I didn't want them to think that I couldn't cope. But more importantly, I didn't want them to think that I didn't like the kids and like the actual children, right? And the actual teenagers. I love them all. Absolutely. They're awesome. Just seeing their own little personalities and stuff, right? But I couldn't quite get into words why I wanted to stop doing it. It hadn't really come to me. I hadn't let it float about my head. I'm sometimes not very good at getting what's in my head out of my mouth in a legible manner, which I think there's a lot of us that are guilty of, right? So I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want people to think that I was getting that old that I couldn't cope anymore. So yeah, there was a whole load of stuff came with it, right? Anyway, as always, what fears we endured from situations that never arose, because in June I plucked up the courage, grew a pair of fucking balls, and just decided that this was what's happening. Asked some people if they would help me. Evie and Natalie said yes, they would, and they've taken over the kids and the teens. And with hindsight, should have fucking done it a year ago. It would have made me a better coach. Anyway, we are where we are now. So, I have scaled back on my coaching to allow me to be a better coach and to allow me to give more to the two groups of people that I coach now. So I coach my ladies that lift in person. So that is effectively CrossFit for ladies age 45 plus. It's not effectively CrossFit. It is CrossFit. It's CrossFit for ladies age 45 plus. That is one of my groups. My other group are midlife ladies that are looking for fat loss or to improve their nutrition. Those are the only 2 groups of women that I coach, that I am in charge of. However, I still cover CrossFit. I still coach CrossFit, all right? But that's me and Gordon that sort that out. It's Gordon's gym, and I cover his classes for him a couple of days a week. And I don't think I'll ever stop that, because if I did stop that, I wouldn't be able to coach my ladies that lift CrossFit, because I need to keep my hand in and keep my qualifications valid, all right? So pretty much 2 groups of women now. And with hindsight, yes, I should have done it a long time ago. But I got in my own head. I overthought a lot of things. I had imposter syndrome. I had a fear of being judged, that I was too old, or that I was being disrespectful to the groups that I decided I wasn't going to coach anymore. Yeah, it was a bit of a weird time. It was an absolute bit of a weird time. Anyway, I've totally smashed it. I've nailed it now. It's absolutely banging. I love coaching CrossFit. I do that for Gordon on a Thursday and a Saturday. Absolutely love it. It's so much fun. And a Tuesday and a Friday morning. Sorry. And I coach my ladies that lift in the gym in person, which is CrossFit for ladies age 45. And then I have my online clients, midlife women that I help improve their relationship with food, work on daily habits, get them some confidence and get them some fat loss. So I have all this spare brain capacity now. That's bollocks, by the way, I don't. But it was definitely the right thing to do. But the whole point of this podcast is that you can literally do anything. Anything you want to do, you can absolutely do it. But it does take a thought process, absolutely 100%. I'm going to do my next podcast on the planning for change and how, I'll just give you some top tips on how you can do that, because if you want to make changes, sometimes thinking about the end game is too much, and sometimes you just need to think about that first little step. So anyway, this is what I want you to take away from this 20 minutes and 20 seconds of me telling you what's been going on in my life in the last year. Change, right? Change will always feel uncomfortable, and it's absolutely 100%, right, okay to be scared of change. Having a fear of the unknown, right, is absolutely fine, providing you don't let that fear keep you in your little safe bubble, because we'll never grow and we'll never change, all right? Staying in a life, a job, a marriage, a relationship, a career, a situation, right, that actually drains the life out of you is way scarier than change. Absolutely, right? And I want you to remember, ladies, that this isn't the end, all right? This is midlife. It's fucking amazing. Absolutely amazing. There are so many opportunities and so many laughs to be had. You just need to know how to get them. All right. So you get to write basically your next chapter, and don't be sitting there saying, "Oh, do you know, I'm middle aged. I haven't got this and I haven't got that, and do you know, this is my life now." You've got another 40 fucking years on this life, on this planet. Like, are you going to be miserable for the next 40 years? No, absolutely not. All right. You get to do the next part of your life on your own terms. Right? If there's something in your life that no longer brings you joy, be brave enough to do something about it. Might take you a while, but be brave enough, all right? The second half of your life can be however the fuck you want it to be. You deserve it to be awesome. All right, my lovelies. Thank you very much for giving me your time, as always. I'll speak to you very soon. Mwah. Bye-bye.